You're live with BBC News. Good to have you with us. Let's return to our top story now, that President Trump has deployed the National Guard in Washington, D.C. He's pledging a crackdown on crime. That is despite the city's lowest crime rate in 3 decades. Joining me now live is General Randy Manner. He is the former Vice Chief of the U.S. National Guard Bureau. Very good to have you with us. Your reaction when you first heard of President Trump's new plan?
Unfortunately, this is in the same manner as what he did for Los Angeles. This is a made-up requirement. It does not meet any of the pre-Trump deployment requirements that I've been involved with for over 30 years. Again, I need to emphasize to your listeners that there is no emergency. This is purely him trying to divert attention from his other domestic challenges that he's having at this time.
Are members of the National Guard trained for this kind of environment that they're about to be entering into?
No, they are not. They are not trained in law enforcement. That is a secondary, actually a third-level mission that they receive just-in-time training for. I do understand and appreciate that many of their responsibilities will be in support roles. But I want to make sure your listeners understand that it's very unusual that he's declaring this emergency in Washington. Yet when he was president on January 6th years ago, where there was rioting and there was actual physical harm to police officers and to property, meaning the U.S. Capitol, let alone the intervention of the conduct business of the United States government, he failed to call out the National Guard. Here, it is a made-up requirement that does not have any basis in truth whatsoever.
And General Manner, for people who live in Washington, who may be experiencing issues around crime or who are worried, how much does this add to the complexity of what is already happening? What do you think this could do for people in this city?
Anytime you have armed soldiers on the street or in support roles, it raises the tension of the people that are affected and see them. The president wants to have armed military on the streets of those cities who do not support him. This is one more indication where he's trying to divert the attention of the media away from his domestic agenda. And it's something where the average American that is living in the streets of Washington, again, you already said it, lowest crime rate in years, even compared to pre-COVID levels. So again, I want to make sure your listeners understand this is a fake situation. There is no military requirement. Just think about if all of a sudden Putin decided to put Russian soldiers, on the streets of Moscow. We would all be saying, what is going on? What's the problem with Putin and or with Moscow? The same thing is here. It is just diverting attention. And remember, all of these guardsmen that are being deployed, it's taking money away from family members in many cases, because their pay as guardsmen in most cases is going to be less than that they would receive from their civilian jobs. And it also takes away from the readiness. This will negatively impact the Guard in other states as well, where literally their training assembly pay is likely to be cut because Congress is not going to authorize additional funds to make up the difference between now and the end of the fiscal year at the end of September.
How are National Guard members as well meant to deal with some of the things that President Trump is talking about, like quality of life issues? He's mentioned homelessness particularly, but also things like loitering. I mean, how would they even begin to address that? And what do you think that relationship then becomes like between the people that they're trying to deal with and law enforcement?
Your question is right on target. This is a police matter, which the DC police are well trained and equipped to be able to handle it. They have not requested this assistance, and it is absolutely not a military mission. I say again, this is not a military mission. Every time you have armed soldiers on the street, it creates tension and anxiety among the residents who are surrounded by these armed military. This is nothing more than a show of force and a demonstration by somebody who is having political challenges at home relative to the Epstein files, as well as the new job count that he fired his own director over.
And how do you think the Metro Police will respond to the fact that the White House is saying they've cooked the books when it comes to crime statistics?
It's important to understand that with the mayor's press conference that she did earlier today, she was right on target. She has very little power and authority to counter the president on these matters relative to the home rule laws that were enacted by Congress and signed by President Nixon all those decades ago. She played it very cool and collaborative and cooperative with federal authorities, which was a very smart move on her part. In contrast to if he was to do the same thing in New York or in Chicago or Philadelphia, those mayors and those governors would be very strongly opposed to these kind of actions, the same way that the mayor of Los Angeles and also the governor of California did not ask for the assistance, and instead it was imposed upon them. So again, the mayor of Washington and the police force should be strongly commended for their collaboration and cooperation with the federal government.
General Randy Manna, good to have you with us. Thank you for your insights.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
President Trump has played down the possibility of a breakthrough at